Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
From Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Good morning, this is Grace.
And of course, you are with us again on our Monday Morning Matters, where we bring you issues in Southeast Asia. Of course, today with the focus, our focus is on Malaysia, especially the case on child pornography, the case of Malaysian student that was involved in child pornography in London, where he studied there. So it is a serious crime, right, Grace?
It is quite serious crime. In fact, this news has been pretty viral, especially on social media, and then that has brought a lot of controversial sort of debate among the younger generations, even up till the educators.
Mm-hmm. So here we are bringing in Dr. Azly Rahman. He is, of course, a columnist at Malaysia Kini, and also an educator in the US, as well as author of several books. Welcome, and glad you are here to share with us your view on this particular issue.
Thank you very much, Arlene and Grace and DurianASEAN for inviting me again. It's a pleasure. And yes, it's a very interesting topic that you've chosen for this breakfast. Is this the breakfast conversation?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's ASEAN breakfast
Yes.
call where, it's a heavy topic to talk over breakfast on this.
Yes.
But
Heavy breakfast on Mother's Day, right?
it is. It is. But from your point of view, I mean, you actually wrote a column in Malaysia Kini, sharing your view on this. But personally, what's your take on this particular issue? I know a lot of Malaysians are outraged over this particular Malaysian student, but as a whole, Malaysia doesn't really have a particular, I would say, either law or mechanism to address child pornography, or do we?
Well, first of all, the original question, what are my thoughts on this case, right? First of all, I'm very troubled reading this. I wish I have not read this kind of story. I'm not reading this kind of story. It signifies a total cognitive dissonance and a moral catastrophe, especially when it comes to the issue of children and the rights of the child. So that is the reason why I say total cognitive dissonance is because a student of such, accomplished student also engaging in this behavior that I will go in detail what is this behavior and what's the consequence for society. And the second part of your question is why is it that Malaysia has the law? I believe that Malaysia has laws to deal with this, but again, it's all a question of how do we enforce this. And the issue now is whether we have a national registry of sex offenders in order for us to move forward into this.
So for this particular issue, this Malaysian student, perhaps you can share with us, what do you think of him alone? Do you think it's really shocking, or is this something new to you when it comes to possession of pornographic images and the obsession towards young child?
This behavior is as old as human civilization, of course, in different forms, right? Obsession and also the behavior that is shown in this case is certainly not new. But if we we look at this from the point of view of is it pedophilia, is it an addiction, mental health, or is it a sexual preference, orientation? I would say that it's all of these. It's obsession of an aspect of sexual practice that is dehumanizing, and certainly a mental issue that poses dangers to society, and a type of sexual preference that is an anomaly and a deviant to the practice of a healthy society. And one must remember that the child is to be protected all the time. And this is what is troubling. And again, it is a mental illness, mental illness that has to be dealt with, but mental illness that has grave consequences on the powerless, which is in this case we're talking about children. So.
How
very
about
serious case.
when it comes to pornography? A lot of people, they tend to be addicted to this. After fewer times of usage of pornography, and that there are a few effects on the users as well. But then when it comes to child pornography, they have different forms of pornography under this child pornography session. Why do they get addicted to this types of pornography after all?
This is a very interesting, very good question. On a very complex psychological analysis, it is a question of power. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Rape is a question of power. It's a power.
Right.
For example, in any time when rape is not only about perverted sexual gratification, but it is also about domination, such that a country that wants to humiliate another country and then go to war in another country, one of the first things they do is to rape the women. In this context, children are the helpless beings. They are once you lock a child in a master-slave narrative, once you lock a child in that situation, relationship, then once your mind is obsessed with looking at the child as an object, a sexual object, then there is something troubling there in terms of the domination of the powerful and the powerless. Mm-hmm. And this is what it is. And child pornography, obsession with assessing and looking at child pornography is hideous. And I wrote that in my column. It's hideous because it trains the mind into being obsessed. And only that. You look at a child, you can't understand. You can differentiate between what is virtual, what is real anymore. All you know is that if a person has a boy mannequin in the room, besides 30,000 images and videos and images of a child, then there is something very troubling there, and that is a question of mental ailment as well as the question of power and powerlessness, and that has to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. And in today's, I guess, digitalized world, I think there's a greater access for such material online. I'm just giving you just a brief statistic of what I found. Incidents of child sexual exploitation, and in fact risen in the last 10 years. And also child pornography is one of the fastest growing businesses online, and content is becoming much more worse. In just 2008, Internet Watch Foundation found that 1,536 individual child abuse domains, and of course, 58% of those are housed in the United States. Not sure how many of them would be in Southeast Asia, but just in terms of revenue alone, child pornography has become a 3 billion annual industry, and this was actually based on a review in 2005. So I guess in 2015 it will be probably even worse. I guess more and more people have been finding the internet as the center of where they get all this material. So my question is, how do we deal with pedophiles and child pornographic contents, and of course our interaction or our understanding of the internet itself?
Mm-hmm. That's a very complex question.
Yeah.
My underlying issue here is that technology enables anything. Can be a good educative force. Technology can also be a very powerful destructive force. In this case, the statistics are alarming, and it's growing, and it's well known that the internet is 60% of the internet. It was 10 years ago was study quoted that 60% of the content of internet pornography. And the danger is, of course, dissemination of images of the child, for example. Then you destroy the child, but when it becomes a billion-dollar industry, then one cannot stop this easily, because unless one becomes like China or Iran or any other countries that has a very strict law banning this and that, banning even things such as Google, or having major software that blocks things. But the world, the cyberspace is a wasteland. It's the world's immense significance and chaos, and no one controls. And this is something that we have to deal with. I don't know whether we have the answer to this. Are we going to continue to have to be an open sky society, or are we going to continue to monitor? Are we going to have the Ministry of Information has another unit that consists of that deals with cyber, issues like this, including cyber terrorism? That is up to us to demand, because this is a major issue of technological significance.
And we will take one short break. When we return, we will discuss more on this particular issue with Dr. Azly Rahman.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hello, this is Grace.
And of course, you are back with us again on our Monday Morning Matters with Dr. Azly Rahman. So, Grace, you have a strong interest in this topic,
Well,
as much as me, actually.
Yes, interest in the sense that because this kind of topic, when it comes to child pornography, it is pretty sensitive, especially this nation in Malaysia, and not many people
So
do
taboo,
want to talk about this. Well, but then the news was pretty viral on social media, especially. So, Dr. Azly, I've got a few questions for you. So first one is, how concerned is the public when it comes to internet child pornography? And then that leads to another question, which is, which part of components of the problem should be given the priority by the police department? Is it the production side, or distribution side, or is it downloading side?
Very good question, Grace. The first part of the question is how concerned should the public be? The public should be very, very concerned because this is a growing problem. As fast as the internet grows, as fast as the websites producing this pornographic materials grow, that's how serious the concern should be. And as I've said earlier, that how do we monitor? In fact, at the level of the home itself, the school itself, how do you monitor students from accessing the sites, which is possible? I mean, in many countries, advanced countries, there are all kinds of things that the school does and the parents do in order to address this issue. And the second part of it is in terms of enforcement. Again, enforcement has to be set up strong enough, good enough for the law enforcers to monitor this new phenomena in cyberspace. Cybercrime unit and child pornography unit, and I'm sure that our police department has all these means in order to deal with this, and also to upgrade, also even to train more people. President Barack Obama a few years ago emphasized on the new form of war, just in the cyber terrorism, and that entails that not just war against nation, but also cyber terrorism in the form of looking at all these issues. And the word cyber itself signify another world that we need to go into and deal and fight and all these things. And in this case, child pornography is, I'm sure that the government has the means and the will to deal with it. So we have to be very concerned educationally, and we have to use the full extent of the law to deal with especially child pornography.
Let's talk about the pedophilia itself, because of course we need to deal with it as seriously as possible, but I know earlier I did ask a question whether it is an addiction, a mental health, or sexual orientation, but in reality, is pedophilia a sexual orientation? It has more tendency towards sexual as a form of sexual orientation in society. And how do you deal with this kind of sexual preference, because it's such a taboo topic in this country for a person to admit that, oh, I'm a pedophile and what can I do about it, seems to be like a no-go kind of conversation. So if Malaysia is becoming, wants to move forward to be a more healthier society in addressing grave issue like pedophilia, how can we address it in a way that we see it as something that can be avoided through probably a more healthier means before it becomes something as hideous like what we are seeing with the Malaysian student, which he has to resort to internet pornography to satisfy his curiosity.
Yes. We have to differentiate between sexual preference and a crime that's committed by the pedophiles. We have to differentiate between the sexual orientation as championed by LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, which is in many countries, advanced countries, that's the right for them to practice, with the sexual preference that deals with deals with children, as well as another extent, also the extreme extent, is bestialia. Bestialia is a term that sexual preference to have engaged in sexual intercourse with animals. Now that's also another form of deviant sexual behavior. And deviant sexual behavior in the sense when it involves minors, the definition of minor is very clear. The child cannot protect himself or herself in the face of a master-slave relationship. The child cannot protect himself or herself against for example, it doesn't matter whether it's a teacher, whether it's a principal, whether it's it's an adult, it's a member of the family or not member of the family, or whether it's a religious teacher. It's in the case of the Catholic priest or any ustaz or whatever. I'm saying that there's cases that in residential schools that the child is locked in this relationship, and pedophiles proliferate in this environment. That is what we need to be concerned. That is why in many countries, if you want to have a job as a teacher, then you have to go through background check, security check, and everything, DNA testing and all. But how do we have that kind of mechanism in the country?
It's quite
Malaysia,
stringent.
for example. Yes. And especially these kinds of cases also happen in residential schools, be it religious or non-religious schools. This is something, and if it happens in the family, and most often that's a member of family that is close to the child, that's entrusted, but to be reporting that your sexually abused is not in the vocabulary of the family because of shame and everything. So that's the cultural as well as a legal aspect of this, but differentiate between what is sexual preference and what is a crime against the child, so that we have to be very clear.
And what are the other mechanisms that other developed countries deal with in terms of child pornography, pedophile, and trying to create a more safer environment for children?
Again, through law enforcement, to track down and also to track down all this kinds of criminals and criminal behavior, and also education itself. There are existing laws that protect the child, and also laws that deal specifically with this. I think I've referred to my article in Malaysia Kini, the latest one. I quoted the United States law that detail what constitute, particularly in this case, what constitute this dissemination, production of child pornography. And child pornography is something that once the mind is attuned, once the mind is obsessed with this kind of materials, then you will shape the mind of the pedophile. So that is the great training ground, the mental cognitive training ground of a pedophile, because the mind cannot move elsewhere anymore because it's so obsessed. That's why in education system we have to look at again, what are the things that will engage the mind so that the mind can grow healthy? Mental health is growing. It's increasingly it's increasing in any society that are advanced. In Malaysia, I think it is growing concern that many cases of mental health, many cases of mental disorder are emerging. And one of the disorder is this, because especially in cyberspace, the mind is is becoming a third self, living in a cyber world, and the cyber world can be even more powerfully damaging than the real world. And this is what the mind of a pedophile is about. So I hope that answers the question. And in the United States, schools become a very important place for which students and children are taught. For example, in the question of touching, in the question of sexual harassment, what constitute appropriate and what is not in terms of touching, and the legal boundaries of touching children, and what constitutes sexual harassment. These need to be taught to children. Parents need to be vigilant. Yeah?
And going back to Malaysia, what is lacking in terms of how the government, society, or even our education system itself in somehow create this awareness?
This is an ongoing issue. Education itself. Back to the question of what is failing, what is successful. What is failing in the education system in this case is that, of course, amounts the areas such as fostering national unity, and the lack of curricular innovation, in the ability to prepare our students for a globalizing world, and also in the teaching of civic ethics. And in the methods we use of the killing of creativity and critical sensibility. But in this case, the failure is that the monitoring of the use of the internet, even in schools, which can contribute to the development of the healthy mind in terms of what children are assessing day in, day out. Are there filters in school? Are there sessions that talks about how do you identify someone whose sexual orientation is children? And how do you make people aware in the community that this is a picture of a pedophile? You have to be aware, be careful that once you identify this person, you see this person, then either run away or report to the police. And how do how do we deal with giving jobs to people who has been convicted of these kinds of crimes? There's so many mechanisms. So those are the things that need to be addressed so that we will continue not to fail. And especially in this case, we are becoming a society with 30 million people as a population, and growing number of children. And there was a case many years ago of a child who was sexually abused and killed in horrendous way and imaginable. And I think in the United States, if that is the case, a law that is passed should honor the child's name, this law, this and that law, Megan's law, this and that, for example. So that would be make people aware that this is very serious. We even have the child's name as the name of the law that protects the child. So we have to do this first and foremost when we are going to be dealing with this problem of pedophilia and also sexual abuse of children and minors.
When it comes to monitoring the usage of the internet, it's very tricky, Dr. Azly, because the internet is just becoming widely used and getting stronger and stronger. No matter how there will be filters or monitoring programs going on, children especially, they will find their own ways to find access to all sorts of the resources to find out. And the next one is when it comes to education, well, no matter how strong the education is in Malaysia, when it comes to sexual education, it's still lacking. The students especially, there are so many things that they are unaware, but most of things they will learn from the internet straight away.
Yes. Well, on the contrary, it's not that difficult in schools, especially if the schools are run well. The schools know what the mission of the school is, which is actually to educate the child.
Right.
The child is the center of the universe in the school, and all the law that's protecting the child has to be made aware and made and manifested in the school system itself. And if we can have all these names such as smart school, cyber schools, and all this IT, then why can't we have a great filtering system in the school that filters only good things in the school? I mean, there are websites that are blocked in schools. And if we continue to do that, that is one step to educating the child in school that you cannot access these things. You can access these things, then there will be consequences if you do these things. And then after that, we extend these things to parents, parent-teacher association. That parents said, this is what the child shouldn't be accessing. because the school is a virtuous place, and this is the virtue that we need to bring into the school, including also censorship, blocking this and that.
Right.
And the schools that are good and creative are the schools that brings in the very best of the internet into the system and use that to integrate into the learning system. Students, and in schools also, children have cell phones, and why don't you say that? Okay, beginning of class, no cell phone. Switch off the phone. This is what it is, what the classroom is about. So many ways, it's up to the ingenuity and the will, I call it political will of the teachers and the administrators, to institute these kinds of safeguards so that our children can be protected and education can happen.
And another question about when a child is being harassed by an adult, but a lot of the times, you cannot. There's no evidence for it. It's more like he say, she say kind of situation. Like, how do you create somehow a mechanism where a child can feel safe to report about cases where he or she is being touched, because it's easy to show abusive marks, a wound or something. But if, let's say, a priest or someone respectable in society, touch inappropriately, touch a child inappropriately, like how can they be able to, tell someone that they can trust and address this problem?
Right. First of all, is to look at the symptoms. What are the symptoms of child abuse? Whether it's mental abuse, sexual abuse. Then symptoms will tell us. First of all, whether when you say there's bruises on the face or the body, that's one level. Another level is that you have to have a trained child psychologist. So not child psychologist. Well, what you call a student assistance counselor that is very trained in psychology, trained in understanding the all kinds of disorder, and trained in interviewing the child, whether the child has been abused or not. And once there are the symptoms that are grounds to report to the proper authority, the first, if for example in a school the teacher notices that the child is coming in afraid and coming in not speaking in class, and then has going to come in with all kinds of abuses, and not performing well in class, declining interest in learning, then has to be pulled out of the classroom and do a legal interview on that. And once you have that identified, then go to the headmaster, the principal, and then file a police report if something like that happened. But I don't know whether we have this yet in the country. We're not Denmark. We're not Sweden. We're not
That's true.
United States. But we have to move towards that, because a child is precious. You cannot overemphasize this thing that the child is the future. Like John Donne once said, that the child is the father of man. And if we do not protect the greatest asset in society, then we are not going to be protecting, we're not going to have a good future. And each child is very dear to. And Mother's Day, today is Mother's Day in America. And what is a child to a mother? What is a child to a father? Everything.
Right.
Everything. And if we don't have work together with schools, education system to protect the child, then we have a failing state.
Yes.
We have a country failing.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll take another one short break. When we return, we will discuss the way forward in addressing this issue.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Welcome back. This is Grace.
And of course, you are with Dr. Azly Rahman talking about child pornography as well as pedophiles in Malaysia. And my next question, I think, is the question that is so popular that everyone is outraged about it, which is, do you think Mara should have given the Malaysian student, that particular Malaysian student, a second chance? And I guess the subsequent question is, why?
Yes, that is a very $64 million question. Should be given a chance. The laws are there. Understandably, people may not understand why people are asking for be given a second chance. Of course, anyone committing a crime should be given second, third, fourth, fifth, or 20 chances. But one must understand first that people are yet to understand the severity of the issue and the tough laws governing nations and countries on certain matters. Understanding the rule of law and the enforcement of it is an interesting issue to be studied, and cross-culturally, depending on the degree of the failure of the state, I would say. There's a lot different in Sweden versus Somalia, Denmark, and Zimbabwe, Singapore, and Malaysia, for example. And why are there sympathizers in this case? Yes, understandably. It is the issue of the conditioning. Race and religion as a twin factor. It is in fact getting worse, because the government is enabling this because we do not have enough political will to engineer an education system that will destroy racism, because our politics is based on architecture of fear crafted by those in power. And hopefully this will come to pass, maybe in 2 or 3 generations. But in this case, we need not look at the issue of pedophile of wannabe pedophiles in terms of race and religion. Wrong is wrong, right is right.
But it's not really being addressed among religious discourse as well, right? Has it? I mean, in terms of pedophilia.
Yes, because there's also the complexity of where do you draw the line between pedophilia and child marriage, for example. And how old should a child get married? And some religious beliefs say, well, as old as a child reaches puberty, and so as young as when a child is able to conceive and bear children. So, and even among the different schools of thought in Islam too. You have this complexity. What do you do with arguments in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, of child bride? These are cultural issues. So this we have to continue to have dialogue on this and continue to force the nation to think of all these things critically. What do we want as a child, and what do we want to institutionalize and culturalize the laws that protect the child?
And at the same time, I think we shouldn't stop questioning ourselves and also send our questions to the government that what do we do to be able to protect the children from all this, and as well as to educate from students level. Like, do we need to start a campaign from the government or any organization to hold workshop or activities to bring more awareness regarding this matter?
Yes. Again, going back to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, United Nations, we are the signatory of it, and then we have to bring it down to the level of the nation state, Malaysia, and we have to bring it down to the level of agencies, governments, and to understand that this is not just an ongoing, but also is going to be growing and growing as an issue. The education is the key. There's only one avenue and sector to me that is long lasting in terms of bringing people into this awareness, which is education. Right? It is an ongoing issue we're beginning to be confronted with as a hypermodern nation, and in this case, it begs the question of education again. We deal with global issues, citizenship issues, moral issues, employability issues, academic issues. All these are to be factored into our national curriculum and into the classroom and into the psyche of the children we are educating. Now, in this case of the pedophilia or interest in child pornography, we need to educate people of the legal and moral aspects of it and the technological aspects. Technological means that how do we teach children to use the internet? What is the internet good for? What is the value of social media? Destructive or educative tools of critical and social engagement? Now we have to continue working hard on this. Collectively we can succeed if everybody is on the same page, as the American would say. No, it's in best interest of the child. So it's a process, but we must begin to make people know that this is very serious, severity of the issue, and not just a child, each citizen have to know their rights as a citizen. There's so much abuses in politics in society now that people just trample the law, and the constitution is not respected in many aspects. Whether it's in politics, in the students' rights, in economics. That's why our country is in a mess. Financially in a mess, politically is in a mess. We are at the stage in which we need to do some soul searching, and we are in trouble. But how do we go back to the straight path, whatever that straight path we collectively agree. But as population grow to 30 million, we will have tremendous number of issues, and we don't know how much evil will multiply, and how do we bring in good forces of good in order to mediate. And this is the key to our survival as a nation and future as a country.
And another way forward, do you think two things? Do you think Malaysia should have a sex offender a registration for sex offender? And second thing, do you think we should have a place to house all sex offenders, including pedophiles, based on the documentary, a place for pedophiles? Right.
Well, it depends on our philosophy of dealing with crime, criminals, and whether to rehabilitate or to punish or to do this and that. And that's again should be an ongoing dialogue. I don't know what the answer is, whether we should have a house to contain the pedophiles, just like a house to contain the Ebola patients in Sierra Leone, or whether the French in the French colonies back in the 1900s to house all the people with leprosy. Was quoting the novel Papillon, French novel. But what do we do with this? But certainly we will need to have we learn from a good best practices from the advanced countries, whether it's from the legal aspect or economic. And in this case, many advanced countries have the National Registry of Sex Offenders. In the United States, for example, if there are a pedophile or one who's sex offender gets released from jail, then a picture of him or her will be circulated in schools for teachers to get to register the image, the person's the face of the person, and to tell the children that be careful. If you see this kind of person in your neighborhood, you report the police or run away. Don't get rides, or don't go into somebody's car, the person that you don't know, because once a child gets into this, then the life will be destroyed. And a child who is engaged, who is trapped into this kind of master-slave narrative, into this whole world of abuse, will do two things. One is to live with this kind of mental suffering, or to commit suicide. And this is the saddest part of it. And you can never know. Imagine holding life secret, secret for your entire life, and then finally, in many cases, in the religious institution, only at the old age you're able to tell the story, and by that time you're already damaged. The first step is to find the best practice in legal, in law enforcement, and also the best practice in education in order for us to deal with this.
Another $1 million question. Do you agree with the Mara official that particular Mara officer saying that the boy is, the Malaysian student, he is a genius, so let's not waste his talent. Let's still provide him the necessary education skills and all that. That's how they justify, he should be given a second chance. Do you agree with that, or do you think they are ignorant on that particular matter itself?
I understand the concern. I understand the concerns from if I put myself in their shoes, it's all about human capital investment. How much have you invested in the child, and suddenly the child does this, the young man does this. And of course, the whole idea of a genius is overused. The word genius, we don't really like the word. We like the word, but we don't like, because to me, everyone is a genius. Everyone is an everyday genius. Both of you, Grace and Arlene, you're a genius in terms of your PR communication, interpersonal relations. And someone who dances like Michael Jackson is a genius in this. And someone who is good in mathematics is a genius in this. So we must demystify. If we say that this person is genius and therefore he has to be pardoned, then what are we saying? Are we saying that the rest are not genius and morons and imbeciles and stupid, and therefore we have to punish? No. In fact, the more a person is being called genius, and the more he goes to the rank of highly educated, the more dangerous he or she will become. Imagine a genius, a criminal. The movie Catch Me If You Can. That's it. Right. You learn the traits, and you're considered a genius. or just like the Rain Man in Dustin Hoffman's movie. Those are considered geniuses. But where do you use your ingenuity? Where do you use your creativity in relation to the moral domain that you are going to be, pursuing? So there's no such a thing as, yes, you're good in some things because you very excel in mathematics, but at the same time, are you doing a PhD or dissertation in child pornography? That's a question, and that's nothing close to genius. That's dangerous. Criminal mind. It could lead to criminal mind. I mean, the evolution of the criminal mind. So it's neither genius nor imbecile. No, this is all about common sense. A child is going to be developed into an adult that's going to be endangering the society. Then we have to deal with it to the full extent of the law, and we have to be sure that wrong is wrong, right is right, especially when it comes to the interest of the child.
Very, very informative from Dr. Azly Rahman. Anyway, thank you.
I hope so.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us.
You're welcome, and thank you for having this wonderful program, and I hope many people will listen to your program, because this is certainly a very educational and a very good service to the society.
Thank you.
Congratulations.